Yes, this is DJ Ski.
I'm Jeff Wilson.
Hey guys, Andy Broom, Vice President CGC Cards.
Hey, this is Jason Howard with Panini.
Yo, I'm Q Harrison.
This is Teapot from Sports Card Investor.
I'm loving the content.
Loving the content here.
The Sports Card Strategy Show.
The Sports Card Strategy Show.
This is the Sports Card Strategy Show with your man, Paul Hickey. What's good?
Part of the NoOffSeason.com Sports Card Network, the #1 place for advice on how to make money flipping sports cards. Thanks for tuning in, and remember, there is no off-season.
You already know, there is no off-season.
No off-season!
All right, you ready to rock?
Ready to go.
When you get into this game, the reason why you pay someone like Paul Hickey to get your sports card strategy together is because sometimes when you're starting out, you need perspective, you need wisdom, you need insights. And so he's been around the track enough times where he can actually coach you up and guide you. Doesn't mean he's going to take you to the promised land tomorrow, but you now have a coach by your side that can advise and kind of even create these pathways where you can get the education yourself. And that's a lot better than thugging it out on your own. Thugging it out on your own.
What? The kids better buy my rookie card now, because after this year, the price ain't coming down.
Welcome in, everybody. I'm your host, Paul Hickey. It's time to sit back, listen, learn, and earn with me on the Sports Card Strategy Show. What's going on, everybody? Paul Hickey and Lefty McKee in the house. We really are here for each other here in the NoOffSeason.com fam. You know, if you're struggling in life, if your team got eliminated early from the NCAA tournament, didn't make it to the Final Four over the weekend, you can come and we can hopefully make you feel better each and every week here on the Sports Card Strategy Show. What's up, Lefty? How you doing, man?
Yo, this is DJ Ski, baby. No, I love that first line of our video. It always gets me jacked, so I'm good. We got a lot of stuff rolling around. Card news galore in the hobby. Some exciting first few days of the MLB with a lot of torpedo bats being talked about. So very strange move that the Yankees made. Of course, the Yankees made the news. And it is what it is, and it's going to be a fun season.
Yeah, a lot to talk about today. You might want to stick around for the entire show. We're going to talk about some PSA and eBay news that we are excited about, and we actually have kind of foreshadowed earlier on in the show. A topic also that has gained some steam in our community. Should you bid on your own cards? We'll talk about hyper relevance in sports card searches because that's a big topic. And then we've got formula movers. So for those of you not familiar, we have sports card rankings at nooffseason.com. Every once in a while on the Sports Card Strategy Show, we talk about new cards that we've added to those rankings based on our mathematical formula that we use to rank cards. So we're going to talk about those today. Of course, we've got a couple of our new favorite segments, and then one of our classic segments from way back in the day. For those of you OGs that have listened to Lefty and I for the last several years, the Gauntlet. It's Gauntlet Day here on the Sports Card Strategy Show. So Lefty and I go through 4 different cards. One of them is the winner. We got Vintage Play of the Month, and QA of the Month is the Should You Bid on Your Own cards. So real quick, before we get into it, let's say hello to people in the live chat. Terry Anderson, Andrew Helms, Andrew McDade, Carmel Porter, what's up? We got Chaos 1218, Sports Cards, Cooked Cards, Sports Cards are watching over on IG. YouTube.com/Paul Hickey is where you can get right into the comments. And thank you to those of you listening on Apple and Spotify. Terry Anderson was rooting for the Michigan State Spartans over the weekend. I appreciate that. Had a big win on Friday night. Couldn't get it done yesterday. That's okay. Okay, let's get into our first segment here, which is the PSA eBay news. But first, are you tracking your sports card profit and loss sheet properly in 2025? Sports Card School at nooffseason.com and our inventory tracker help you to do so. Go premium at nooffseason.com right now. Get that free 30-day trial option. That is only 82 cents per day when charged annually after your free 30-day trial option. Also, if you're having problems buying into too many breaks, email me. We've got a really cool solution for you. Email Paul at nooffseason.com for help, and check out our sports card analyzer and predictor tool. All right, Lefty. So this is something we've talked about for a while as PSA and eBay have partnered and integrated their services. The biggest news over the last year in that regard was PSA essentially acquiring the eBay vault and it becoming the PSA vault. But the integration stayed where you still had the ability to buy a card on eBay, ship it directly to your PSA vault. But that also gave you the ability to send cards in for grading at PSA and then have those cards go directly into your PSA vault. And the new feature that was added is that you could then list those cards from your PSA vault directly on eBay. So a lot of different benefits to that integration and that partnership between PSA and eBay. Now then, shortly thereafter, you and I started having the conversation with our audience about what if one day you could actually buy a raw card on eBay and immediately send it from eBay to PSA for grading. Well, I got an email early this morning from eBay and PSA's PR agency. And you also found an X post that you sent over. And let's talk about this because the announcement, the breaking news here on the Sports Card Strategy Show is PSA Grading official integration for trading cards on eBay. As of today, the option to add PSA Grading to trading card purchases will begin rolling out on eBay. Buyers should see the new feature appear over the next few weeks for all individual, raw, non-autographed cards priced $250 and above with more than 2 images in the listing. This feature offers a more seamless end-to-end journey for trading card collectors, streamlining the grading process. Talks about convenience, PSA grading at eBay checkout, no extra steps, faster turnaround, eliminates the need for cards to ship to the buyer first, streamlining the grading process and speeding up delivery. Authenticity and trust. This value-added service applies to cards over $250, which already qualify for eBay's authenticity guarantee program. And they say lower risk reduces chances of damage from multiple shipments. This new offering builds on PSA's existing partnership with eBay. And so we'll elaborate here in a second. And then they sent us a quote from the general manager of US collectibles at eBay. I may or may not read that. That could be kind of funny reading his quote. But anyway, what I think here is that this answers a lot of what we thought maybe they were going to do. The only thing I don't see yet, and I've reached out to the gentleman who sent me this press release to see if we could get somebody from PSA and or eBay on the show to ask them some questions, which would be cool. So stay tuned for that. But like what service level? Like, is it my guess is that this is going to be difficult still to roll out for like a value bulk submission. Now the 250 and above takes care of it with the authenticity guarantee. That makes sense. That part makes sense. So does this mean, I wonder, and we don't have the details yet, but does this mean that it's going to be a service level that already exists that's around the $50 a card level, something like that? Or are they going to create a new service level for this? Lefty, what are your, you kind of found this yesterday, so you've had a chance to think this through for today's show. What are your initial thoughts about all this?
Well, my first initial thought was, how the heck did you do this? I mean, we talked about this maybe 2-3 weeks ago, and we were like, man, wouldn't it be cool if this was a feature that potentially blah, blah, blah. And unless you had some insider information, which I don't feel like you did, because you would have said it different. You would have said it differently. It was like, I mean, you were almost spot on to how they rolled it out. You were like, I mean, they already have the authenticity and trust. You know, it would probably be graded cards over $250 when they already go in authentic. You know, I was just like, yeah, okay, yeah, like I could see that happening. But literally in my mind, I was thinking this could maybe roll out in a year, or maybe at the soonest, or at the earliest. And then all of a sudden, 2 weeks later, bazinga! I get a collect or a CLLCT is an account I follow. I think that's the name of it. It's like a collect media on X, and it just immediately I saw in bold words, you can be grade straight from eBay or something like that. And I was like, no freaking way. And as soon as I started reading into it, it was like they heard you on the podcast and they're like, people love it. We're rolling for it, you know, like, and they're like, what ideas did Paul Hickey come for? So I think instead of emailing them about somebody to come on the show, you should ping them about some royalties for some research and development department that they are basically just learning from those of us here at the Sports Card Strategy Show. Man, maybe we've got more listeners than we think we do, Paul. And the PSA Research and Development Department is right here at nooffseason.com.
Thanks, Lefty. I appreciate that, man. Maybe you're right. Maybe I should try to find that episode, the timestamp from that episode, and send it over to him and be like, hey, how'd we do? What do you think? You know?
What the heck?
Yeah,
surely they already had this rolling out.
I mean, I think it just made sense to me at the time to think about like, okay, well, I mean, if they're doing all this and they're talking about this end-to-end blah, 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 you know, the buzzword speak that comes in the press releases that I just read, you know, they're talking about that end-to-end experience, you know, that would be the thing that would make really the most sense, is to just allow people to grade it. And then I thought, okay, well, they've got like, how do you do the service level was my like, how would they handle that? Because there wouldn't be the ability necessarily to build a bulk submission. So then it was like, okay, well, the way to do the service level is to say, well, you've got the authenticity guarantee, and that's $250 and above. So basically all you need to do there is just assign a service level to that, and it's a 1-card submission, basically. To start it, to get the ball rolling, you do like a 1-card submission. So my guess is that that's what this is going to be. When I read it, that's what it sounds like. It says, you don't need to register. At checkout, when you buy a raw card, $250 and above, you will have the option to easily purchase PSA grading at checkout. So, and we got a question in the live chat from Brian Bartunek that I think I'm going to answer right in this sentence. Like, so what it's going to be is, and I don't work at all with anybody from eBay or PSA, so this is just me coming up with this. What it's going to be, I can see it, is that when you go to checkout in eBay, you're going to have, if you select the PSA grading option, it's going to make you check the terms and conditions agreement for PSA, so that whatever grade you get, like that ends up becoming like you're agreeing to not return the card. You look at like the eBay, basically the eBay return policy is going to go away once you check that terms and conditions box to purchase the grading at eBay checkout, if that makes sense. Because Brian's asking like, what happens to the return if you don't like the grade? They're not going to let you return the card after it's slabbed. Your ability to return the card is going to go away once you check out, because you will have checked another terms and conditions box. There would be like a PSA/eBay terms and conditions. Now you're agreeing to purchase this card, and regardless of the grade, it's going to be returned to you. What's cool about this is it opens up a whole other world of possibilities for a lot of different plays for all of us, especially our friends from outside of the United States. You know, we've talked to some people, some premium members, like from Australia, for example, on the premium pod last week. And what we heard from some of the premium members outside the United States is that, yes, they can use the PSA Vault. But because they're overseas or in Canada, they are unable to send their cards to auction through the PSA eBay account, which surprises me, but there must be some kind of legality there. You must have to be a U.S. citizen for that. So now With this option, though, what you could do as a solution to that, we talked about them just using our services at nooffseason.com to get around that. Now it seems to me like you could just even if you're outside the United States, you wouldn't have to drop ship us your cards. You could potentially just send them directly to PSA from your eBay purchase, potentially. And then they could be in your PSA vault. Now you can always transfer cards from your PSA vault to our PSA vault, right? And then we could list them for you. So that's easy. So now, Lefty, there really seems to be a way with some workarounds, but pretty seamless way to anybody anywhere in the world be able to really like never have to touch their card at all and get it graded as long as it's over $250 and sell it and never have to touch it, which is wild.
Yeah. So, okay. So I got to ask you a question. So in the show notes originally you had a link that I was going to talk about and you've since removed it. Do we not want to talk about the link?
Yeah.
Well, the link was images that they sent you.
Oh yeah, there was images. Yeah.
Do you not want to talk about that?
I can pull those up if you want to keep.
Because I did want to talk about them, and I just didn't know if you didn't want to include that.
No, I didn't look at it, so I wasn't sure. It just seemed like it was going to be images that I could put on our website or something like that, and I didn't know if it would be relevant.
There was a key point that I wanted to bring up here that we have talked about. So. If you're okay with it, I would like to mention.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So when they sent us the press release or whatever, they sent us a link to some images to a Google Doc that looked like I was just like, what's going on here? And I was like, okay, whatever. So I clicked through a few of them, but I did find one thing pretty interesting. It already reveals the additional service price that it's going to cost.
Okay, cool.
So apparently when it gives you the option to do this, it will send it in at an extra $39.99 per card, and it goes in as a PSA value plus grading. So as you see here, that last card had it, or that last picture had it on there. At the very bottom there's a checkbox that says PSA value grade shipping, and then if you click on, I guess, the last picture they sent you, it's kind of the information of the section, and it says save time. You're going to get it. It's a 20 business day turnaround, so it is value plus still. Starts at $39.99. Pay no additional fee and limited time shipping from PSA until June 30th. So they're obviously $39.99, I guess, until June 30th, and then I guess it goes up from there.
Yeah,
and
you did say that in the press release. Sorry, yeah, you're right. That's a good point. They did say in the press release, no shipping fees to get this thing rolling through June 30th. So yeah, that is the only fee would be the $39.99.
So I'm looking at my PSA account right now. And if I go in to start a submission and go in and do this and blah, 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 and I say new submission and I go to value plus, it is value plus is $39.99 with a 20-day turnaround.
So there you go. So good catch there, Lefty. So they just added value plus to this add PSA grading. They're not charging for shipping. This should be way faster than, like, not way faster, but this should be way worth it. It's probably what I'm trying to say. Like, it's going to save you a few days on both ends waiting for your card. Like, I don't think the authentication process is going to go any faster, but it typically doesn't take very long. So what you're going to do is you're going to gain probably 2 or 3 days on the front and back end for the receiving of the card and the getting it to PSA. And $39.99 for a card that already costs over $250 to get graded doesn't break the bank. And you don't have to worry about these things that we've actually, recently we've started to talk about, well, what happens should you should you add insurance via eBay shipping when you ship a card over $250 as the seller? Well, now it's kind of like you actually don't have to worry about that on either end of when you're shipping the card to PSA either. I really, really like this. I mean, I'm pumped about this.
I think there's two things here that I really wanted to point out. One, it takes the bulk grading play out of it. So if you're buying a card for a bulk grading submission play, you would still not click this box, because the bulk play is at, anywhere between $16.99 and $21, depending on if you're using a silver membership or if they have a promotion that's going on or something like that. Most of mine I end up getting around $19 to $20 because I've been doing enough of them. So this service time would be for a specific card that would be thing. So there will be situations where this will actually not play in your benefit. You would not want to choose the Value Plus because it's a 20-day turnaround with one card at $39.99. But it's the exact same fee that you would pay on your own personal PSA account. I think that's unique. I think they didn't add any sort of fee on top of it or anything like that. They didn't add, and so I will honestly, that will need to remain to be seen for me. I think they could potentially do it at $49.99 and be like, yeah, it's convenient. It's also $10 more expensive, and we'll have to put that into the account. But I also, the point other that I was going to make is Andrew McDade actually just brought this up in the live chat. So I'm going to bring it up here and show it to you. This could possibly open up some first to the market plays, but it could simply be pretty risky. If there is like the first $250 whatever Caitlin Clark, let's say when Prism just dropped and you buy the Caitlin Clark auto and it says immediately ship to PSA for authentication, and let's say it does the $1,000 level at $49.99. I'm immediately smashing that button because then we are not only doing first to the market, but it's increasing your day count by a couple more days than that, like you mentioned. You're just getting it only faster. It's already staying out there. You don't have to worry about what's going on. It's just like that kind of play. I can see this being extremely beneficial. And so I think that could be really cool for cards that are coming out of releases right away and that break the $250 threshold and things like that. So I think there will be some situations where Value Plus will not be usable and it's not a good option, but then because like if you're building a bulk play, then you're saving, $10-15 a card if you're not grading each one of them individually. But there will be some scenarios like Andrew talks about that this will be completely the move right away.
Yeah, definitely. And I'll add a couple of points on top of that. And I might be repeating a couple things, but I think that's okay. So this isn't going to work for, like Lefty said, there are going to be still dozens and dozens and dozens of cards that only make sense to do a value bulk play on, and it's not going to apply to those, right? So you're still going to be shipping yourself or whoever's grading your cards for you, maybe us, cards to get in hand to put together a bulk submission for PSA, probably more often than not. The other thing is, if you're going to crack and submit a card, obviously this doesn't apply to that. There's no option, obviously PSA is not going to crack your slab from another grading company for you. So you're going to have to ship yourself those cards. Most of those cards are over $250 and they do make up a lot of the plays that we make. So it's not going to apply to those plays. PSA is not including crossover. There's no crossover submission for this. It is just simply the Value Plus. So you're not going to be able to ship them anything but a raw card that's over $250. The other thing, I'm going to correct what I said earlier because I had not read this bullet point yet. This is only open to U.S. buyers and sellers. So only U.S. buyers and sellers of individual raw and non-autographed cards priced $250 and above with more than 2 images in the listing are eligible. So unfortunately, our friends outside the U.S. still aren't going to be able to take advantage of this, but we're still here for you to do the whole drop shipping it to us, and then we send it to PSA for you and consign it. And that's still a good move. So unfortunately, it doesn't solve everything, but let me just say, I think this is just the beginning of what they're going to do with this. And it makes sense for this to be the way that they start it, because they already have basically everything in place with the authenticity guarantee. It had to already go to a grading company anyway, whether it's CGC, whether it's PSA. The other grading companies are the ones who are the authenticators of the authenticity guarantee for eBay. And so it's like I think a lot of these cards already go to PSA personally for the authenticity guarantee. And so now we're in a situation where it only makes sense to be like, okay, what service level are we going to add to this? And then sell it right there. And so I just wanted to clarify that my solution for people outside the US is actually doesn't work. So I apologize for getting people excited a minute ago. Okay. John Raven, general manager of US collectibles at eBay, says, grading is a core part of the trading card hobby. And now the process to get from raw card to authenticated card and graded is seamless when you build your collection with eBay. We're raising the bar and setting new standards for trust, innovation, and speed in the service of the collecting community. There you go, Lefty. Other than the fact that I wanted to say that for those of you who missed the beginning of this, if you go to eBay right now, you're not going to see this. We were showing you screenshots that eBay sent me in a press release, but they are saying as of today, they are going to begin to start rolling this out. So guys, I mean, let us know when you see this, and we'll let you know when we see it. It's probably not going to be today, but you never know.
Yeah, I think I'm very excited about it. I actually went today before this show. I went online and I was like, okay, I'm going to try to do it right now. I'm going to see if it's hidden and they haven't necessarily or if they've soft announced it rather than hard announced it. So I went in and I was like, okay, what is a single card that's going to be gradable? So I went in to buy it now. And I Googled on eBay, as I'm famous for. I Googled Jaden Daniels. I went and got an autograph. It was $700, $750 or whatever. And I said, okay, it already says authenticity guaranteed on here. So I put it in the cart and I was like, at what point would it end up popping up? I got all the way to the end where it was like, please pay now or forever hold your peace. And I did not see it. So it is not currently apparently on the cards that are at the level of authenticity guaranteed. So for those of you guys that have asked in the live chat today, when is this starting? When is this starting? Brian Bartunik says today, supposedly. I would motion that it's probably not today because I just got a card that is seemingly very popular and had over, 25 different watchers on it and still is over $700. All the things that you would think this is a card ready for this service level, and it was not there. So I'm not saying it is or it isn't. I'm just saying from my experience, when I tried to do this today, you could not do this yet.
Well, it'll be interesting to see who sees it first.
I'm sure it'll probably be like Turner. Jeez. He's just locked in, bro.
Turner's locked in. I love it.
There's so many times me and Paul learn stuff from Turner.
Yeah, he's adding value for sure. We love in Turner. Okay, we're about to talk about some new releases and what the chases are and what, if any, plays would potentially come out of them. But first, I just want to say hello. So Cole Collects is over on IG in the live chat, and he has a question. And so for those of you new to the show and asking questions in the live chat, we defer everyone asking questions about particular cards that they have. Just go ask them at nooffseason.com/ask, because you get like the best answer from Lefty and I on the premium podcast. And if you're not a premium member of nooffseason.com, you'll have a blast with the free 30-day trial. Just get a free 30-day trial, ask your question. We'll answer it on the premium pod. It'll be a way better answer than us just shooting from the hip here live on the show. Also, Lefty, this is going to be totally out of left field, but
love that.
Trying to figure out we've tried to figure out like who is the authentic sports card dad. Now we know sports card dad is Dustin. Dustin has his YouTube channel, but I've been seeing this person in our live chat as a listener of this. I have a theory on who this is.
Oh, let's hear it.
Okay. And it's just because of this cheers with the beer clinking emoji here. Because there's one particular person who I've become very good friends with that always says cheers. And I wonder if Ziggy is the authentic sports card dad. Because Ziggy would always just pop in the live chat and be like, cheers. So
why would he not use his other account?
I don't know. I mean, Ziggy is he's a creative dude.
He's zigging and zagging.
Did he create an account to troll Dustin in a fun way, being the authentic sports card dad, and now he's just dropping in the cheers? I mean, Lefty, if I get that one right.
Yeah, if you pulled that, bro.
If I pulled that one, that's impressive. Okay.
I'm just saying,
sports card dad, thanks for saying cheers. Cheers right back at you, Ziggy.
If the authentic sports card dad is Ziggy and he was trying to like do this, he just outed himself by using the word cheers. He doxed himself. So if you're gonna go incognito, Ziggy, got to change.
Come up with a different catchphrase.
Yeah,
than your own.
It's like me if I was to say, yeah, just Google it on eBay. You know, like that's.
Yeah, like if Kendall
just a one of one.
If Kendall was trying to be like the authentic DJ Ski and like go and comment on people, and then he started being like, just Google it on eBay, then everyone would be like, that's Lefty.
You're like, frick.
It's just trolling DJ Ski. Okay.
Let me before we move on back to reality.
Real talk. Okay.
I also want to celebrate with me. All right. We're gonna celebrate.
Okay.
All those Cooper flags that I've been talking about for about 25 years or whatever, seems like, all of them I've sent to eBay. I sent everything to eBay and I just said earliest day available, get them on auction this past week. 30 of my auctions end at 9:35 on Saturday night. The Duke Houston game starts at 8:50 p.m. on Saturday night.
Talk about the best timing.
Come on, bro.
The best time. Congratulations.
He literally can't lose between now and then. The game is going to be on. The Final Four.
Perfect.
The first game has already happened. Everyone is watching. Duke Houston tip off. 1 hour in, my auctions are ending. Let's
go. I'm pumped for you. You deserve that. And yeah, congrats, Jaime Corona. His Houston Cougs led by Kelvin Sampson. Great coach. Love it. Congratulations.
I love when people call them the Cougs. That's sick.
The Cougs. Yeah. Coug. I like how it's spelled there. Coogs. Go Cougs. Yeah, I'll root for the Cougs. Why not?
No.
I mean,
root for Cooper.
I'll root. I mean, you can root. In theory, you can root for Cooper and the Cougs a little bit. Okay. Anyway, Arturo Torres. I just want to say hello to Arturo because he's in the live chat and he's a great commenter. Cheers to everyone from Authentic Sports Card Dad, aka Ziggy. All right, here we go. Mosaic Joe has helped us with the following content here. So Mosaic Joe is a great mind that's in our nooffseason.com team. And he's kind of brought out 4 newish releases that he kind of wanted us to talk about. Number 1, 2024 Topps Heritage High Number Baseball. And I think this one is interesting only because it has Real One red ink autos. And I do know from talking to our friends at Cards to the Moon podcast, those guys are big on the Real One autos because if you can pick, they understand our thought process of the right card for the right player at the right time. And they've kind of said, look, This is sort of like a secondary or tertiary right card that's less expensive than the Bowman Chrome First Prospect Auto, or like maybe some kind of a case hit or something. But it does move. They've basically said like it's moved the needle based on player performance in a way that's like way better than any other cheaper card, essentially. So they like the price point of it and they like the upside, almost like how we like the Prism Silver PSA 10 for football and basketball. And Lefty, you're a baseball guy. So what do you think? Like, and I'm not saying that there's a play with like going out and right away buying out of this release, because we kind of know, if those of you who've been part of the family for a while, why that is. But what do you think just in general of the Real One red ink autos out of Heritage?
I see where you're going with it, and to a degree, I'm kind of on board. I like the fact that these real red ink Real One autos have the written number on it rather than the printed number. I always think that's kind of cool. I like when it gives some sort of like an inscription type feel to the card, which we've known like over the past year and a half, inscriptions have gone crazy. If you pull a card that has an out of 150 autograph, but it's also inscripted, it's essentially at that point a 1 of 1. And so I like this. I think there's already some that are kind of flying around on eBay. I just Googled Googled on eBay red ink Real One autographs. And they're all out of 75, looks like. But it like the Acuna one or the Ozzy Albies one is set for like almost $200. But then there's one that's already on auction with 6 hours left or something like that. And it's a pitcher auto out of 75, Ben Brown for the Cubs, and it's up to $52. So I'm like, okay, like that's something. It's definitely something that I would be interested in. I think the rookie ones are really cool. For instance, I'm watching one from Andy Pajes right now for the Dodgers, and then there's even one of Tyler Fitzgerald, who's a rookie for the Giants this year. And then there's one for Luis Arias, he's a needle mover as well, but that one's only $28. I think this could be a cool play depending on the card. I think there's going to be some opportunities here, but man, do I get freaking nervous trying to buy into Topps Heritage. Topps Heritage is one of the first things I ever opened, and I lost my ship in it, if that makes sense. Like I just was hit really hard with nothing in return. And so I get nervous, but just because I'm nervous doesn't mean that it's not an opportunity. I like the thought process of it though.
Yeah, that's a good analysis there, Lefty. And I would say, just for clarification of everyone, like, don't buy the wax or don't buy into breaks on this. Like, what we're saying is maybe after the dust settles later this summer, or even better yet, October, November of 2025, going back and looking at the Real Ones autos out of this set, possibly the rookies who maybe flashed or played well, maybe have upside going into their second year, and their prices have dipped on this particular card because it is November, like October, November, December, like AKA buying season. And maybe going back, this could be a card for that. And so just noting that it's about to come out, it's a good time to do what Lefty's doing, which is like just start to follow the prices and just see where they are. Don't buy in yet. Lefty, having said all that, you named some rookies. I'm looking at like all of the guys with the RC next to him on this checklist.
Yeah,
are there any that actually? I know there's some names. Like there's some names. There's some names, but
can you imagine what the Paul Skeens is going to go for in this scenario?
Paul Skeens would be. I don't see Paul Skeens on the checklist though.
Okay, Paul Skeens does have cards as a rookie in this checklist, so I didn't know if he had
maybe from last year.
So I'm looking at the 2024.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
that's what you're looking at, correct?
Yeah. Maybe I just like my search function in the browser just like didn't see it.
The
but-
lead image in the Beckett posting is Paul Skeens, so he's in the set, but I don't know if it has. So, for instance, there is one I'm looking at right now of Jackson Merrill. That card's going to be really expensive and really cool. You know, like, and I think there could be grading opportunities with these things. If you go, if I'm looking at the autographs tab, I'm going down to the real one autographs. Let's see. Trying to find. Oh, Paul Skeens right here. That will be electric.
Okay.
If a Paul Skeens hits the market, I'll just be very interested to see where that lands. Another guy that I'm interested in right now, Manzardo is actually playing really well. We haven't talked about him in a long time. His rookie auto could be pretty cool. There's other guys in here like Jackson Holiday, Jackson Merrill. Those guys are both cards that I would be interested in, like at least watching. I'm not saying these in terms of winning these cards. What at this point in this release, you're thinking this is the second or third season that we are seeing these guys make their major league debuts. They were full-time rookies last year, and you're seeing the start of this season be the start of this release. So this is technically their sophomore year. So Colt Keith, for instance, is in this release. Not the same sort of firepower as a Paul Skeens auto, but there probably could be some opportunities to buy into a Colt Keith and get that graded and flipped as well. Let's see. Andy Pajes is in here, not a guy I'm super excited about. Let's see. Wyatt Langford is in here. That's a one that I could be interested in. Yamamoto is in here. That would be kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so those are some names that I like.
Yeah, and so I see. Okay, so I see Skeens, I see Langford. The real one autograph checklist is on the second tab, and I see is Skeens in there in that? Yeah, here. Yep, he is. Yep, ROAPS, real one autograph Paul Skeens. Yeah, that would be. And Langford. Yep, there you go. So
I'm just gonna go in and already heart that search. I'm gonna go in, Google it on eBay, and then just save it.
I mean, Lefty's guy from way back in the day, Jordan Lawler.
Yeah. Oh, Jason, dude, there's two of them. There's
Jackson
two of them
Holiday,
on eBay right
Jason
now.
Dominguez, Churio, Dylan Cruz, Evan Carter.
The Paul Skeens is apparently a redemption.
Okay, there you go.
There's
So
one on auction right now.
Covering a little baseball. We're gonna skip a few of these other ones. I think that the other ones Joe has in here. We love you, Joe, but I don't even. They're all just kind of fades to me. I mean, the Bowman U Chrome basketball is interesting. That's supposed to come out later this week, so that would be the other one like that I would.
That's got Coop in it.
Paying attention to, obviously, because of Cooper Flag, not only autos and low serial numbered stuff, but which is the big stuff, but also just even there could be a play on his base,
the Bowman
raw to grade, or just his like a refractor raw to grade.
I like that look.
Would be interesting. And Carmel Porter asked about the Heritage 2020. It's 2025. I think I said 2024 because that's what was in the show notes, but I'll blame Joe for that. It's 2025. Topps Heritage.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes it all different.
So, but we had you were looking at the right checklist. That's why I double checked it. You were looking at the right one. I was looking at 2024 first, and then I think there's just a typo in the show notes from Joe, so it's his fault.
No, the box says 2024 on it that I'm looking at.
Well, all the guys that you mentioned, we were looking at the right checklist, and that's all that matters. So the checklist and the heading in Beckett says 2025.
I'm tripping.
Such confusion today.
I am confusion.
There is a 2024 and a 2025. They're different releases, and we were talking about the 2025. I do know that for a fact.
Cool.
coming out or has already hit the market, as we just pointed out. Okay, Bowman Chrome University basketball tentatively for later this week, Thursday.
That could be cool. I like that one.
That would be cool. Cooper Flag, obviously the main person there. Maybe there's some raw to grade stuff with Cooper coming out of that release, because I do see his value continuing to climb probably through the summer league. I'd see a lot of hype around him through the summer league. So more on that to come. And actually, this is a good segue, because the reason I see Cooper's trajectory and value going up through the summer league is due to hyper relevance. So hyper relevance, the data behind it, we're going to talk about here in a second, but let's just clarify this for a second, because we were talking about, go back to the heritage discussion. We were talking about 2025 Topps Heritage when we were going through that checklist. Andrew McDade points out that Joe was actually correct. There is a release called High Number, Heritage High Number, that just released, is 2024. Okay, whatever.
Which is where all those autographs are at.
Okay, there we go. So now, thank you, Andrew. The okay whatever was not directed at you, it was directed at me. I was whatevering myself. So we got some data behind hyper relevance of the Japan series, and I just wanted to read through this and kind of get Lefty's thoughts. So looking at the search volume, because I think the reason this caught my eye is because Lefty and I always talk about how when a player's in the news cycle, it drastically increases their search volume on eBay. And then the more search volume a player gets, the more views their listings get. And the more views their listings get, then the more watch list ads and bids and offers and all that. So Yamamoto, from March 11th through March 17th, leading up to the March 18th Tokyo series, Yoshinobu Yamamoto search volume increased nearly 50%. Shota Imanaga increased over 40%. On March 19th, 2025, when Ohtani hit a solo homer in the Tokyo series, global eBay users searched for Shohei Ohtani nearly 1,700 times per hour. And that was obviously like the Cubs Dodgers series, obviously. So that's why those three names were the names that were pulled for this data. And I mean, I think that is like, we're not making up what we say when we say like the Japan series could be a selling marker for those guys, et cetera, or the NBA draft lottery could be a selling marker for a lot of your Cooper Flag cards, because he's going to be littered all over media coverage during the NBA draft lottery, because it's going to be the lottery for Cooper Flag. Lefty, anything you want to add there?
I just, in the same breath that we gave you, like is PSA having an insider data pull on anything you say to get to the auction thing for PSA. This is where I was talking about, where you were like, is there an opportunity? I think you asked me right before the series, you're like, is this a good selling marker for Shohei? And I was like, man, I think this is the selling marker. I think this is it. Like it's the three dudes against Imanaga on the field. There's a bunch of Japanese stars in the series, and it's the first game of the year. So it was just like a culmination of like, this should be the point that you sell everything. So do you like that?
Yes.
And so now that we have data to say like, yep, that was it,
So this data just backs up that Lefty was 100% correct and then some on this. Good work, Lefty.
The data next time is going to show that people love me singing, I guarantee.
Okay, let's take a poll on that. Drop a comment below at youtube.com/Paul Hickey. Do you love Lefty singing? Yes or no? And then we'll have data on it. Are you confused by grading your cards with PSA? Grade with us at nooffseason.com. Send us your cards. We do the hard part and save you money. We also track your gem rate for you. So check out nooffseason.com. All right, let's get into some cards to buy. All right. I see what our guy Jake the Guardian did here, Lefty. I see what he did. He added a bunch of raw to grade cards that are baseball cards. Why? Because it's baseball season, baby. And we've got a Paul Skeens 2023 Bowman Draft Sky Blue Refractor. Target cost $59. 7% ROI raw to grade. We've got a Juan Soto 2018 Topps Chrome Update base. $33 target cost, 10% ROI on a raw to grade. Freddie Freeman going back to 2009 Bowman Chrome Prospect Auto. Target cost $340, ROI 34%. That's interesting. And look at this one. This one brings back fond memories from Lefty and I's strong relationship and friendship here. Ellie De La Cruz 2022 Bowman Chrome Auto. Target cost $306. Raw to grade ROI 107%. Do we go make that play right now? I mean, I can't because I'm only buying 5 players and he's not in my 5. But Lefty, look at that. What do you think of these new raw to grade ads to the formula from Jake the Guardian?
I would say 3 of these 4 names are names that I've been like, man, I can't wait to get into those guys again. Paul Skeens is a fountain of youth or a fountain of money, however you want to look at that. Ellie De La Cruz has obviously made us a ton of money in the past. It's fun to be able to think about getting back into him. And what is this? I love singing as much as Paul loves Aaron Rodgers. Yikes, Rusty. Yikes. That is tough.
Carmel likes your singing though. So 1 for, 1 against. Carmel says yes. There
Come on. That's 50%. I'll take it. That is a good grading gym rate. 50%.
That's good.
So Freddie Freeman, I think on here is the one that I am probably the least secure on, but I totally understand why people do this is because Freddie Freeman's market blew up last year when he did things in the World Series that no one had done before. No one had hit a walk-off grand slam to win a World Series game before Freddie Freeman did it. He's a guy that's on the Dodgers who's going to consistently get the attention that he's gotten. Plus, he also has a big market of fans in Atlanta. You know, he comes from a big market to a big market, and they love him, and they love him. You know, it's like Freddie Freeman has so many people that are rooting for him. I like that return, especially it's probably a card that is attainable, and it's probably a card that we've seen the Coles get shipped out of already. Ellie De La Cruz, I'm always excited on getting an Ellie auto. One of my buddies got his son was at opening day, and Ellie signed a baseball for him, and I was like, as cool as that is, I kind of just want to buy it from him. So I don't think the kid wants to sell it, but still pretty cool. So.
Yeah, so good work from Jake the Guardian on those. I mean, I think out of all of these, the Ellie De La Cruz one excites me the most just because of the potential 107% ROI and the target cost, obviously the highest, well, close to the highest at 306. But just because people get so excited about Ellie and probably doesn't take too much to move his needle, being where he is now in his 3rd year, right? He's in his 3rd year. So now I think Ellie's at a point where he's still exciting and young, but he's also plateaued a bit. So I think it's an interesting buy-in point for a card like this. So I like it. Okay. Now from an already graded standpoint, we different theme. We're going to football here. And this is actually great work by Jake as well, because what he did here is he basically said, like, look, nudge, nudge. It's kind of football buying season in a way for some of these guys. And let's point out the ones that make the most sense. So Puka Nacua, his 2023 Absolute Kaboom Vertical PSA 10. This is a very expensive card, but based on our calculations, you can make 30% ROI on this if you get it for $1,230. So that's an interesting one, like a higher end card. A lower end card would be Puka's 2023 Optic Red Mojo PSA 10 to make 47% for only spending $38. And then Lefty's guy from this past year, whom he made a lot of money transacting on, is Lamar Jackson, 2018 Prism Base PSA 10. Basic card, safe play there, I think. Target cost $235, ROI 19%. And then a big fan, a card that been a big fan of that I've made money on in the past, Joe Burrow's 2020 Optic Hollow PSA 10. target cost 360. Projected ROI only 6%, but I think that's conservative because I think that number basically comes from where that card went to during late August, early September last year. And I believe Joe Burrow and the Bengals start every season very, very horribly. And if Joe Burrow can even have a good week one, if he can have an outstanding week one, week two, that 6% ROI could easily be 26% ROI, I think, on that card. But I think out of all of these, I'll go first. I think out of these four, I'd go Lamar PSA 10 Prism base. That seems like a really safe play to me at $235. What do you think, Lefty?
That I already
That's why you highlighted it.
Yeah, I'm already like going for it.
Stole it from you.
You stolen it from me, and so I already have been bidding on some. Plus, I know that this is a card that I can find. Like sometimes with these graded to graded plays, it's like, oh yeah, like the sky blue Paul Skeens. There's not that many of those, and so like this one, there are the PSA 10 versions of his base Panini Prism rookie, and so to find this right now, I also think is a good time because a couple weeks ago we had the NFL free agency buzz. Well, we're coming off that. So now we're entering into NFL buying season again, right before there's going to be the hype again in 20 days or so at the NFL draft. So I think we've got a week or so here where people are forgetting to bid on Lamar Jackson, and that's fine for me because I made a bunch of money on Lamar last year, and I'm going to make a bunch of money again on him this year. So let's get it.
Yeah, and I still maintain that I think now is the time to go and buy a card like that, just because if you look at like auctions that ended over this past weekend or maybe even ending tonight, everyone's still thinking about the Elite Eight game. They were certainly thinking about the Elite Eight games over the last 2 days. And I would venture to guess that people are still thinking about their brackets, thinking about the Elite Eight and Final Four games coming up. So yeah, to your point, even you already said it. Great point about free agency kind of dwindling down a little bit before the NFL draft heats up. Great pocket for football. So good work there by Jake to get those in there for today's show. Graded to raw real quick. We go back to baseball. Jackson Churio 2022 first Bowman auto in a PSA 9. This is interesting to me, right? Because these are cards that I think at one point in time, if you go back 2 years or 2.5 years, we're looking at these cards as like, oh, they could go up in value. And people may be bidding them up and things like that. Even in a PSA 9, his Bowman first auto before he broke camp with the Brewers, he was pretty hyped up prospect, number 2 overall on most big boards behind Jackson Holiday. And now you're in a situation where you can get his PSA 9, hopefully for around 366, crack it, sell it raw for a 23% ROI. It's interesting. Juan Soto 2016 first Bowman Chrome auto in a BGS 9 goes for around $911, but raw it goes for 34% more than that, even after fees. So that's interesting. Vlad Guerrero Jr. 2019 Topps Chrome rookie auto blue wave PSA 9 target cost $398. Crack it, sell it raw, make 9% after fees. Paul Skeens 2024 Topps Chrome update auto PSA 8 target cost $332. ROI after cracking it, selling it raw, and after fees 35%. Skeens 2024 Topps Chrome update purple speckle auto in PSA 9, probably going to be a hard one to find. Target cost $515. You can make 15% ROI selling that raw after fees. So, Lefty, anything you want to add on those graded to raw plays there?
I like I've been kind of perusing the Vladdy Jr. market from a lot of different angles. And I've been looking at it from a graded to raw standpoint as well, especially because it was around long ago enough to where people still graded a lot in other grading companies, like BGS or, like other sort of things like that. And so I think the raw to grade strategy in general on Vladdy Guerrero Jr. is compelling. And then that same with Juan Soto as well, with him being that long ago, that it was before the 2020 basically spike of everything. So I like that.
So many great tips on this show. How about you give us a tip? Go to tips.sportscardstrategy.com. Donate whatever amount you can to help us continue to bring you great sports card content regularly. And if you like the content on this show, we really want you to join us on Fridays for our premium podcast for premium members only by joining nooffseason.com today. Unlimited advice from us there too. I mean, I mentioned it earlier in the show when people were asking us questions in the live chat and I was deferring them to nooffseason.com/ask. It's unlimited advice. So just ask as many questions as you want at nooffseason.com/ask. And we're going to hook you up with like the best answers you're going to be able to get anywhere. So, and then don't forget about CGC Cards, the perfect place to slab your favorite sports cards. From their crystal clear holders to their affordable pricing, CGC Cards is the perfect stop for your grading needs. Go to cgccards.com to start grading today. Great grading company for PC. Not necessarily the best, obviously, for the raw to grade strategy, but definitely up and coming as a grading company and doing a great job. Lefty, it's time for basically throwback time to people who started to listen to us in early 2022, the Gauntlet. And then you and Turner brought it back on Lefty cards in 2024. And we've taken it back to the Sports Card Strategy Show here in 2025. Once a month, Gauntlet. Turner has picked 4 matchups. So I'm going to let you pick between the first 2 cards. Okay. The first 2 cards, card number 1, 2015 Panini Prism Nikola Jokic 335 PSA 10. That's obviously his rookie. And according to Turner here, we might have to just quickly fact check. I think he's probably got this right. But he's saying base Prism PSA 10 last sold for $820 on 3 days ago on the 28th of March versus Jason Tatum 2017 Panini Prism Silver number 16 PSA 10 last sold for $650 on March 24th. So I think we should just make sure that we're talking, because he does have base for Jokic, but silver for Tatum. So that just makes me wonder. I just want to double check.
So on 328, it did sell for $820. The base did.
Okay.
There's been 2 since then that have sold around $770. So it's a pretty even.
Okay. So he's right.
Yeah.
So, and like Jokic 2015, the base might be the silver actually. No, it's not. It's not. They're 2 different cards.
No, I think the silver is like $1,000.
Yeah, the silver. That's right. The silver is much more rare, and there is in fact a silver from 2015 and a base. So the base,
and mucho dinero.
Yeah, it's over. I mean, I'm looking at some auctions right now. You're probably looking at them too, but they're all over like one's at 31 bids, 28.51 with 6 hours left. So that's
the last sold for 3.23K apparently, according to Market Movers.
All right, so you're picking between Jokic and Tatum.
Yuck.
And yeah, I mean, which one are you spending money on?
Man. This is a tough one because they're both yuck to me. Like, I don't want to invest in Jokic because I don't think there's a buying pool for him, really. After we just said that there's cards of him selling for $3,000, I just don't think that people are going to get jacked about. Just like, what's the selling marker for him at this point? He has done some incredible things. He literally had a quadruple or whatever that was, where it was like, he had 20 assists and 20 rebounds, and the dude he's just a crazy dude that's making a ton of different weirdo plays and looking like he is not interested in basketball at the same time. But then Jason Tatum, I just have like a blah with him. So I'm going to take Jason Tatum because I know that there's other people out there that are not blah with Jason Tatum, and I'm going to sell it to that person. So I'm going to take the Jason Tatum Silver Prism over the Nikola Jokic. That's where, just because it's less of a issue to sell it, I think. That's where I'm at with it.
Yeah. Interesting. I was wondering, like, I don't have the pop count in front of me, but I was wondering if you had looked at the pop count. I'm gonna just pull it up real quick. Because I think
Of which guy?
of both, just because I think that
The pop count
could,
for the Jokic is 1252.
okay.
And the Tatum Silver Prism PSA 10 is 914.
Yeah, so that's really, there's not a huge difference there.
Yeah, there's
so,
a 300.
yeah, that's not enough to like sway my decision. So okay, so it's Tatum's 2017 Prism Silver PSA 10, which last sold for around $650 a week ago, against 2020 Panini Prism Silver Anthony Edwards 258 PSA 10, last sold for $705 last week. I mean, like, I love that card, and I do not and I was kind of grossed out by the first two cards as well. So I'm going Ant-Man for sure. Reason being, like, I know the upside of that card from a couple of years ago. I mean, that card reached like 2K during the last playoff. And not that it's going to do that again, but I mean, and the T-Wolves are obviously struggling a little bit this year. They might be in like a play-in situation. They got in, like, there was that big brawl with the Pistons last night, I think. So,
I love a brawl.
However, I have always loved Anthony Edwards and still do as a great sports card investment. Right card, right player, right time. That one fits the description for me. Tatum's the defending champ. And I just don't. The same thing you were saying about Jokic versus Tatum's market, I think rings true in Tatum versus Ant-Man's market. And for that reason, and all the other reasons I stated, I'm definitely going 2020 Prism Silver Anthony Edwards 258 PSA 10.
Yeah, I cannot agree with you more.
Okay.
Like, I was like yuck on Jason Tatum, but I am not yuck at all on Anthony Edwards. I actually am still holding an Anthony Edwards Silver Prism in my PSA vault that I can't wait to get out of when it goes back up in the play. Hopefully that it does get back up in the playoffs, because I am at a different price point than $630 or whatever it is right now. So I'm looking forward to get back into that card, but I would buy another one of those cards today.
I think I would too. I mean, that's a pop 2091. And I, like, if I were at a card show with you this upcoming weekend and I could get one for the last sale was $630 I'm looking at.
Yeah.
I said $705 based on Turner's data, but that was a sale from $327. After that sale, it sold on $329 for $650, and then yesterday for $630. So I mean, if I could get that card at a card show for $610, I would maybe break my promise of 2025 only buying 5 players. I mean, that's how much I like that card. So
I'll buy it for you at the card show you go to, and then I'll give you a 10% gain on it.
Perfect. There we go. So let's just meet at that imaginary card show and get that deal done.
For somebody who's and at this imaginary card show, I'm lowballing them and giving them a $600 offer. So
yeah, me too. Good call. So if any of you are at a card show this upcoming weekend and can get that deal done for Lefty and I, we will buy it from you, and maybe there'll be a little special reward in it for you as well. All right, now so that card, Lefty has to pick between that card and a 2018 Prism Silver Luka Doncic 280 PSA 10. Last sold for $1410 according to Market Movers on 325.
So are you giving me 2 Anthony Edwards versus 1 Luka?
Yeah, I guess. I think you kind of got to look at it as, the way that I look at the price difference is just simply if I had to spend this price on this card or this price on this other card, which one am I going to make money on more likely than the other, right? So I don't know that I know we kind of look at this differently. I think you and Turner kind of look at it as like the money and the difference plus the whatever. But to me, this is just simply like if you had to spend this amount of money on this card and make money or that amount of money on the other card and make money, which one are you picking?
I don't think this is as easy as it sounds, because with all the Luka stuff that's going on right now they're entering the playoffs at a 4 seed. They're playing the Grizzlies in the first round of the playoffs. I think that goes better. Personally, I think that goes better than a 7 seed playing the Clippers potentially going to play the Rockets after that. I don't know what happened to the Timberwolves this year that they're falling to a 7 seed. I think, like, what the heck's going on? They should be a 5 seed easily. And so I think they're a hard matchup for the Rockets, but still they're going to have to clear the Rockets and the Clippers to potentially get to or they're going to have to potentially clear the Rockets and the Clippers. What's the play-in situation? Mavericks, Kings, Clippers right now, or potentially get into that 6 seed where Golden State is currently at.
I'm going to help you real quick. So I've got the data pulled up for you. So you're trying to make money on either the Luka 2018 Prism Silver PSA 10. You would have to pay $1,400 to get into it. $1,380, right? Here's the 365-day chart. So you saw a big spike after the trade. It's kind of come down a little bit, but it's still like if we look at where he was during the conference finals last year, that would have been right here. It did get up to $2,000 and $60. So $2,060 on June 1st when he was in the getting into the NBA finals last year. So I think you got to ask yourself the question, like, what is it going to take to move the needle back up to that again? At the trade, it went up to 1770, and now it's 1380 basically. Or Anthony Edwards, you look at his chart and you go, okay, last year when he went off, this is what I was referencing earlier, it got up to 1840, which is crazy that it's only a $630 card right now. So does that help you with just kind of like what Luka's upside is?
Because if Luka's whole narrative right now is a buzzword. Like this is all right place, right time. What was the thing you used for the Dodgers series, the Tokyo series? What was the word you used for that? And also
hyper relevance. Yeah.
I think Luka is in hyper relevancy right now, just in general, from like the tension of how the Mavs season has gone since then. And if they win that series against the Grizzlies, I think it goes above that last high. Personally. So I think I'm going to take this Luka card because I think the hyper relevancy of Luka, they don't have to do much. And he's on the team with LeBron, so it's like, I think his market could be at an all-time high in a month and a half if they beat the Grizzlies.
I like it because I would totally agree with you, because if you look at like Luka, when Luka was injured, this card was still and around Christmas, which is a great time to buy in. It was still around $1,000 card. So the fact that it's gone up to almost 1,800 at the trade and then back down to a pretty affordable, it's 365-day average is where it's at right now. So I love that. I think that's a great.
I'll take that.
Turner must have Turner redeemed himself, because this started off as a steaming pile of turd with Jokic versus
the
Hayden.
First round is supposed to be turd.
Okay, fair enough. Turner has totally redeemed himself by getting us into a situation where we had to pick this Luka card. So now I have to pick. I should just let Lefty pick this one too, but I'm going to pick the this Luka card that we just analyzed against essentially the same card, but for SGA. So this would be his 2018 Prism Silver PSA 10. Now, what Turner probably knows, but maybe the rest of you don't know, is that in a vacuum, I hate this card. And the reason I hate this card is not because of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander at all. Not because it's a Prism Silver PSA 10, because I do like that card.
Can I guess what
but
you're
it's
going to
actually, what's that? You're going to interrupt me? Go
Can I
ahead.
guess what you're going to say?
Yeah, go for it. You know it. Go for it.
I think I do. I just
You know it. I'm just going to tell you. You know it. So go ahead. You got
Is it the rookie shield?
You got it.
Yeah.
You got it, baba. My little niece says she's 5. She goes, "You got it, baba. You got it.
Got it, baba."
So there we go. You got it, baba. You got it. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, 2018 Prism, 184. Lefty knows me really well. Silver PSA 10. Does not, none of his even the base or none of his Prism rookie cards have the rookie card shield, which I might be overthinking a little bit, but I do think that at the end of each card's journey, someone is left holding that card. And so at some level, that does play a role in the card's overall value. And I know we're trying to look at flipping it in a short window here. So maybe I need to excuse that fact, because if Shai were to win his first NBA championship, this card would 100% double in value, right? Would you agree?
Yeah.
It's at 1,400 right now. Do you think that a championship for the Thunder is built into this card, or do you think it goes up significantly if the Thunder win it?
I think it goes up to probably about 22.
Okay, so it doesn't double, but it goes up to 22. Now, they're both in the Western Conference. This is hard, so Turner kind of redeemed himself. They're both in the Western Conference. So essentially what I'm doing is I'm picking one of these two as the Western Conference champion. This is a pop 684 Shai's. Luka's is a pop 2372. It's the same year.
That also plays into this too, because every time you've brought up the rookie shield thing, I'm like, oh, maybe it's just Prism that messed it up or whatever. But the dang Luka one has one.
Yeah, everyone else has one. They just messed up Shai's.
Boo.
It sucks. Here's the problem I'm having with this card a little bit is the line graph. And, for those of you who have listened to us for the last few years, or even the last few months, you kind of know why that bothers me. If you're brand new to the show, I'll kind of give a quick overview. Essentially, you don't really want to buy in when a card's at its peak. And its 365-day average is $710. Its last sale is $1,410. So its last sale is double the 365-day average, which leads me to believe that there is some championship hype built into this. And so for that reason, more than the lack of the rookie card shield, the winner of this month's gauntlet, is the Luka Doncic 2018 Prism Silver PSA 10 280. Now, Lefty, that's my winner, but I'll give you the floor because I know you're a Thunder guy and you love Shai. Who would you have picked between those two cards?
I am actually going to agree with you. I don't think that I would have picked this Shai Gilgeous-Alexander card, primarily because I hate investing in cards that I'm emotionally attached to. It's so much easier to invest in a player that you don't give a crap about than a player that you're like, oh, well, I struggle with wanting to invest in Chet Holmgren as well, because I'm just like, man, that's such a good opportunity. And, but yeah, I think this is a championship run that people are expecting so much. It's already built in. I think this Luka card has not hit its electrifying ceiling. And I think the Shai is going to top out at 22, I think this Luka card could go higher than 22. And so if they're relatively the same level, plus is a safer floor, plus you've got more cards to equal out some sort of a like we talked about this last week, where the lower pop count cards really can fluctuate. You've got 1,000, 1,800 or something like that more cards in a PSA 10. So it's like, I'll take that. And I think that if Luka, I also think that the 2,200 is where Shea is winning the championship. I think Luka's could go to 22 if they just beat the Grizzlies. Maybe just once, maybe just the first game, and then everybody's just like, oh crap, Luka and LeBron in the playoffs, blah, Another guy that would be interesting to watch their playoff run. I think Bronny James's cards are going to take off during the Luka LeBron playoff run or whatever.
Yeah.
So
interesting. He's playing well, right? I mean,
I think there's a lot of
playing.
things in this Laker run that are really interesting to look at.
I think the Lakers could do it. Honestly, I think LeBron's tip-in win at Indiana the other night it just got me thinking, man, that team.
He's never had a guy this good at this age that's played with him, which is crazy because he had Dwayne Wade.
Kyrie would be Kyrie in Cleveland, I mean, you're right. So whether you're a beginner re-entering the hobby or an advanced sports card flipper, our team of experts invites you to a webinar. Yes, that's right, everybody. Get pumped for a webinar to help you learn how to make money flipping sports cards, live on Friday, April 11th at noon Eastern, but available via recording if you can't make it live. Only $15, and premium members can use their member points and get it free of charge. Register now at nooffseason.com/webinar. All right, it's time for vintage play of the month. I'm going to go first. So Lefty and I each pick vintage play or plays that we want to talk about. I like a 1984 Topps John Elway 63 base PSA 9 pop 3,039. It sells multiple times per day on average. We typically talk about cracking and submitting to PSA. So that would be like cracking a BGS slab or an SGC slab or some other kind of slab and submitting it to PSA. What's interesting to me about this is it kind of like grading at PSA, and then like that experience that I just mentioned where I've cracked so many BGS slabs and submitted them to PSA. Lefty, you know how we've talked about how the gem rate isn't as high necessarily as you think it would be? Like there's so many times you get a PSA 9 back off of a BGS 9.5, or you get a PSA 8 back off of a BGS 8.5 or whatever, but you can see the subgrades. So this actually got me thinking, what if you were to crack, because PSA doesn't have a 9.5, what if you were to crack a PSA 9 and submit it to Beckett to try to get the BGS 9.5? And that's what I like about this John Elway play, is that the PSA 9 is, its 365-day average is $349. A BGS 9.5, my friends, goes for, in a 365-day average, of $1,200. So you 4X from a PSA 9 to a BGS 9.5. Now, those of you out there might be rolling your eyes going, Paul, one's a mint grade, the other's a gem mint grade. But I'm thinking, look, how often have I submitted a card to PSA and not gotten an explanation about why it doesn't gem, but then you send it to BGS and it gems, but it's got the centering's a 9 or the surface is a 9 or whatever. So I don't think it's likely that it would gem at BGS, but I think that there might be a chance if you buy a PSA 9 and it looks like there's an obvious reason why it didn't gem at PSA, but that if like 3 out of the 4 subgrades look like a 9.5 at Beckett and the other one looks like a 9, for example, that could be a play. So looking kind of like the opposite direction on the crack and submit, how can you go from a PSA grade to a Beckett grade where you actually get the subgrades and maybe you make a little money? So that's number one. Number two is different. It's just simply buying and a card and keeping it in that slab. So a graded to graded, as Lefty likes to call it. And I went with my all-time favorite player as a kid. Everyone's all-time favorite player for baseball, by the way, is always Ken Griffey Jr. Like, Lefty, I don't know if you realize that, but like every baseball fan who was born between like 1981 and like any baseball fan born between 1981 and like 1995, their favorite baseball players, well, maybe Jeter or A-Rod, but Ken Griffey Jr. like is going to win that, I would say.
Are you asking me or telling me?
I'm telling you 100% I'm right. I know I'm right on this. I've done an unofficial poll.
But that includes me.
I know. And your favorite baseball player of all time is Ken Griffey Jr. because you named your dog Griffey.
I was going to try to hold out and be like, no, it is me. But then I forgot my dog's name is Griffey. Ah, frick. You got me.
I'm playing basketball in the mornings with some good dudes recently. And like, they're like from all these different places. And like, they're all born in that way. It's a big ass window. That's like a 15-year window of time. And they're all born within this window. And like, without fail, one-on-one conversations, like don't do it in a group, but one-on-one conversation. Hey, oh, you like baseball? Who is your favorite baseball player? Ken Griffey Jr. I'm like, no crap. Really? I almost said SHIT on the air. But anyway, like, really? Ken Griffey Jr.? Yeah, no kidding. There's a reason why his 1989 Upper Deck Star rookie sells blah, blah, blah. But anyway, we're not talking about him. We're talking about my favorite player as a kid,
for me, by the way,
other than Ken Griffey Jr. My first favorite player before Ken Griffey Jr. existed was a man named Alan Trammell. And his rookie card, 1978 Topps rookie shortstops, which he shares with another player I really liked growing up. Paul Molitor is on that card. Molitor never really played shortstop, but it's called the rookie shortstops. PSA 8 Pop 2304 sells multiple times per month. What I like about this card is it goes up and down. So part of that is based on eye appeal, but there is a play there. So you can buy this as low as $126 throughout the year. You can sell it for as high as $275. That's real data from the 365-day chart. So I that's kind of a card that I've always wanted to make a play on anyway, just because I would never really buy an Alan Trammell card just because I like Alan Trammell, but I would buy an Alan Trammell card if I can make money on it, and I would enjoy owning that card while I have it. So those are my vintage plays of the month. Lefty, feel free to comment on anything I just said or just go straight into your vintage play of the month.
I think that I have not laughed that hard in a while. So that was good. Where I was like trying to play sneaky and you're just like, dude, you named your dog after him. That's so funny. Yeah, Griffey's definitely one of my favorites. I also am a pretty big video gamer and when I was a kid, I was like a huge gamer. And one of my first games I ever got was King Griffey 99. And so it was like on the Nintendo 64. So that definitely moved the needle for me. So anyway, my vintage play, I'll just start out by saying, I think I've said this before, but for those of you guys that have listened to the show for a while, you probably know this as well. But for those of you guys that are new to this, if you're new to the show, this is the hardest thing that I am asked to do. The vintage plays, we do this, I think, once a month, a vintage play of the month. This is the hardest thing for me to evaluate because one, I have to always go back to what is vintage and what's not. How far is ancient versus vintage? Like where, what do I pull this out of? Because I'm in ultra modern all day long. And then, so it's hard for me to pull out of that and to think about it. So what I do every time is I sit down and I'm like, okay, try to think of something different, try to think of something new, because I always just go to like vintage quarterbacks. Typically, that's like the only thing I can think of. So this time I tried to think about it a little bit differently, and it's not the same as your John Elway play, but it's a similar mentality of like, how can we know the system well enough that it doesn't necessarily matter the card, or it does, like for instance, you did the PSA 9 to 9.5 and we have the 9.5 to 9 all the time. And so I was also thinking like, how can I play the system by knowing the system and potentially make a win off of that? So I went to 1969 tall boy Lou Alcindor card, which, as you guys know, is Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. The SGC one sells commonly for under $300, and it's not like commonly is a loose term here because a PSA 1 of this card isn't super popular. But you can get these multiple times over the last calendar year under $300. And there have been multiple times that this card sold in a PSA 1 for over $400. So you have a window of $100 there. And if we're doing the vintage grading bulk submission here, I think this is a play in concept. I think you can go out and buy specifically PSA. I'm making a move to try to say, can you go from an SGC 1 or a BGS 1 to a PSA 1 consistently and make money on a crack and submit? Because I am just the only thing here that doesn't work that I could be hit from behind. So like if Paul just sitting there just loaded with the gun ready to just shoot me for this take. The thing that could potentially bother this is you could come back with just authentic cards, or you could come back with, I don't think PSA has a 0.5 card or something like that, but like, is there a level where it's too bad where they won't even put a PSA 1 on it? Then I could say like that is, and I know that is the case in some degrees, but what is that? If it's a card that is a full card, is it going to come back as a 1, or is it going to come back with authentic? The other thing is there is theoretically the upside that it goes up in value, and that it could go up to a 1.5 or a 2 as well. And in that case, you'd be swimming in money. So I did it for this 1969 Topps 25 tall boy Lou Alcindor card for this SGC 1 to the PSA 1. But my theory is I think you could go out and buy ones pretty consistently and move them to PSA 1s rather than SGC 1s and make some money off of it.
I like it. I mean, I think I don't know, because I don't have enough experience at whether or not PSA, if it comes in as like a gradable card, like gradable full card, I don't know
what's the lowest
what they do. Like, do they like, yeah, exactly. I don't know if they don't think it's a 1, like what do they do? I've never been there. So that's interesting. First of all, that's interesting enough as a topic on its own to throw that out there to the audience and say, hey, what's your guys' experience? Does anyone out there in the fam know what happens there? Have you guys ever had something happen where you thought for sure it was going to be at worst a 1, but it comes back and it's not gradable or it's authentic? Or does PSA ask you, would you like us to slab this authentic because we're not going to give it a grade? I don't know. That's interesting. Maybe Andy Broom at CGC could answer on our Ask the Grader. For those of you who are premium members at nooffseason.com, we have an Ask the Grader feature on the premium pod where Andy Broom, the head grader at CGC Cards, will answer your questions if you designate them as Ask the Grader. So that would be an interesting one. Obviously, that wouldn't answer for PSA, but it could answer for CGC. The other thing I like about your play, Lefty, is like, if you think about the worst case scenario, buying an SGC 1 Lou Alcindor Kareem Abdul-Jabbar for $330, like, what's your worst case scenario? Like, you're buying an SGC 1, right? So as long as you're not overpaying for it, you're buying it at the 365-day average. Like, I love the idea of what if you get a PSA 1.5, or what if, just because I don't see that value going down ever. Now, the reason why Lefty and I don't buy vintage is because we want to see the return on our money within the next typically 3 months at the most. Like, we're typically trying to make money. Some plays we make are like 6 to 9 months. That would be that's way in the future for Lefty and I. But a lot of times it's like on average in the next 3 months, we want to see our money come back along with our profit. But with this Kareem card, this Lou Alcindor card, it could be part of the portfolio where you're like, hey, first I'm gonna try to crack it and submit it to PS, or first I'm gonna list it raw as an SGC one, maybe like higher so that I get a little bit of money from it. Then if it's just sitting there and I'm sick of it, I could crack it and submit it to PSA, see what happens then, and then if it comes back from PSA as like ungradable, then maybe I submit it back to SGC or whatever, right? And then maybe I get an SGC one, maybe it comes back an SGC two. I mean, all these different things. If you're willing to sort of play the game, I like it as part of your portfolio. So part of the reason why I wanted to, and by the way, I totally feel you on this being the hardest thing to do. It stretches us for sure. So I think that one of the reasons I wanted to add this is because maybe there's some opportunities we're not taking advantage of and our audience doesn't get to hear about because we're not diving into that market enough to where, we talk about, we want to mitigate risk. We want to have people have sort of this diverse, but not too wide portfolio of activity within cards. And so maybe like we start making some of these kinds of plays as like the safer plays. That's the reason I picked Michael Jordan as one of my 5, is because I wanted to have somebody in my portfolio that wasn't dependent upon a game coming up in the next few days or a draft coming up in the next few months or something like that. So I like this pick a lot.
I will correct myself. There is not a 1.5. The half grades start after PSA 2, which makes this play a little bit different, but there is an authentic slabbing that they can do. This means
there is a 1.5. I mean, there is like a PSA 1.5 is pop 114.
Really?
So
okay. So I'm looking on the PSA's website and it says between 2 and 9, you may achieve a half point increase. So maybe that's just not anymore.
Maybe not anymore. Maybe they don't do a 1.5 anymore. It's a shame that your was it the Marvin Harrison Jr. score retreat didn't get a 1.5? It was pretty close.
Yeah, it's pretty close. This is a nice it was a 6 or something like that.
Yeah, I think
so
Lefty bought that from me. For those of you who don't know the inside
lore. There is authentic slabbings and then authentic altered slabbings as well. I just don't think that I don't know. And so it would just be this would be an interesting ask the grader question. Maybe I should add that. So there we go.
Yeah. A lot in there. That's good stuff. Okay, so last segment of the day. This is pulled from the Premium Podcast. It's the QA of the month from the Premium Podcast. We like to give all of you at the Sports Card Strategy Show an opportunity to look at some of the content from the Premium Podcast. Also, I wanted to open this up to the larger community, even non-premium members, to kind of have an opportunity to give us their take on this. So feel free, once this video finishes and this entire show publishes, to come back and leave an actual comment at youtube.com/Paul Hickey, not anything in the live chat. So for any of you on Apple and Spotify, come back over. Let us know what you think in the comments at youtube.com/Paul Hickey about this topic, because it is straight up, should you bid on your own cards? And it's asked by one of our premium members in a way that I think begs some actual intelligent discussion. So Turner and I are going to take it away here. Lefty's going to try to stick with us and add some value at the end of the show. So here we go.
All right. Next up, we've got Joshua C., who has been flipping sports cards for about 4 to 6 months. And his question is about an overall strategy. So he said, I've been kicking around an idea about eBay auctions. What if someone incrementally bid just enough to get a card up to around 75% of the 30-day average, then step back and let organic bidders take over? Curious what you think about this strategy. Do you see any ethical concerns, or does it seem to be like a fair game to leverage the algorithm this way? And there's a screenshot involved.
Yeah, there's a screenshot involved, and he references an Anthony Edwards 2020 Select Concourse Blue Prism number 61, sells for about $80 in its last 30-day average. Thanks for the screenshot there. So a little context there on what card he's talking about there, in a PSA 10, of course. And so I mean, I love that Joshua asked this. I think it's probably something, I'm going to just venture to guess more people do this than admit that they do this. I have never really heard anyone admit to doing this other than our own Lefty McKee has said a couple of times on the Sports Card Strategy Show that he's done this, not to this extent, not to the 75% of the 30-day average, but literally just if he auctions, Lefty has said that when he has like a base card that he's auctioning off through PSA, his PSA vault, and he'll start, if he starts it with a 99-cent opening bid, he'll put in that first 99-cent opening bid. That's all that's very different, I think, than what Josh was asking. Now, I will say this is very taboo. This is a topic that I would venture to guess, like I said earlier, nobody will admit to actually doing this. I'm curious how many people actually do it, right?
As an owner of Walton Goggins goggle glasses, I know how to make
so
slick
now
looking
we're
goggles
getting
glasses,
ad
but I
in
have
the middle
no
of my
idea.
own eBay video here, so sorry about that. Let's just skip the ad and then get back to it. Here we go. It's not a practice that I have ever really partaken in any way, shape, or form. However, I do think Joshua, the way that he's asking it in this particular scenario, I don't see it necessarily as unethical per se. However, I do think that 99.9% of hobbyists would frown upon this practice and would probably be very outspoken about not doing this. And we've heard it being called shill bidding before, right? So I think the argument against it would be, look, if you think that, like, I think the argument against it would be like, it's going to reach its fair market potential anyway. If your hypothesis is that it's going to sell for its average of its last 30 days, then like, why would you need to be the one who's bidding it up to 75%? Also in theory, if everyone is out there bidding it up to 75%, and I'm not saying everybody is, but if everybody were, then wouldn't that 75% be artificial and not really representative of the fair market value of the card? And wouldn't everything be inflated in that case? So this is a very philosophical question. Should we bid? But it's also an ethical question. Should we bid on our own cards? Is it acceptable in any scenario? Joshua has laid out a very specific scenario. I think my take on it is to each their own. I mean, if you believe it's not unethical and you want to do it and you can justify to yourself doing it, and you can sleep at night and feel like you're not changing the market, you're not artificially making weird things happen that wouldn't otherwise happen, then I guess to have at it would be my like, who am I to judge? Again, I do think that this is probably going to be frowned upon by 99.9% of people, even though I do see Joshua's point. Like, why would it really affect anything? And I can tell you why, Turner, and then I'm going to turn it over to you real quick because I'd like to get your take on this too. Here's why I think it's probably unethical. Because I always talk about not being like the first person to bid on a card. Because I think if you're new to the hobby and you don't know what the card actually is, I think that you can be misled when there's bids on something. I think you can be misled even when there's not bids on something. I think people that are new to bidding on eBay or new to the hobby, they can be misled of like, oh, the opening bid is $29. Well, that seems affordable. Let me go ahead and be the first to bid. Well, what if that card typically sells for around $15 or $19? You know what I mean? And so like, you could counterpoint that and say, well, that person could look that up and not make that dumb decision and all that stuff. And fair, but if you have a bid on that card, Now it's like the new hobbyist thinks, oh, well, it has to be worth that because at least one other person bid that. But if that was your bid, now you're in a situation where you have misled the buyer by essentially showing them a shill bid, a fake bid. So that's why I think that's one reason. And I think the other reason too is that things change pretty quickly. Things can change very quickly in a 7 or 10 day period of time. And so, I think that if you're out there, you're confident, you list the auction, blah, 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 and it's not going well. And now it's sort of on you you kind of listed it at the wrong time. And maybe you have a couple bids on your card, but it's not bidding up the way that you want it to bid up. Well, if you start bidding on that, we all know the eBay mechanism where if somebody else has a higher total bid in, it will trigger that person's higher total bid. And now all of a sudden, so in that case, and I know I'm going for a long time here, but I think in that case, so let's say I auction off this Anthony Edwards 2020 Select. It should sell for $80. Let's say it's only at $35 and it's got 3 bids on it. And it's dwindling down to the end of the auction and I'm feeling nervous about it. Let's say one of the bidders has their highest possible bid in it at $79. Now, if I go in and I put a bid in for anything over 35, and there's no other bids in the background between my bid and that other bidder's high of $79, it's going to trigger eBay to move it up to that. Well, it's going to tell me I don't win it yet, right? There's a bidder, the bid that's higher in than I. And so if I keep hitting bid higher, bid higher, bid higher, bid higher, and then I stop around $75, now all of a sudden it's going to trigger it, and that other person is going to win it for $79. But if I wouldn't have participated in the auction, he would have won it for $35. And so I think that's there's a.
This is a real B&H birthday story.
All right, so we're getting a lot of ads here in the middle of the video. So I think actually now is probably a decent time to stop and bring Lefty in for his analysis, his take on this. We've got a lot of good comments in the live chat too. I think my point at the end there before the ad kind of came through in terms of how eBay triggers up to the next bid. So Lefty, also want to give you a chance to comment on what I said about your thing at the beginning of that. So take it away, man. What do you think about this topic?
So if I remember correctly, I just wanted to clarify, this is for vaulted cards. Well,
Joshua asked the question on any card that you have listed. Is it unethical slash potentially even is it ethical or even a good strategy to yourself bid it up to 75% of the current, recent comps? Now, in order to do that, it's easier if you're doing it through a consignor, right? Because you could use your own eBay account and bid on your own card that's listed with a consignor, and PSA is the consignor in this case. So, but I think Josh was just asking about it overall. And then in that case, I don't know how you would do it. You'd have to create a second, third, whatever eBay account, go into an incognito tab, log into that account, bid on the card from that account in your other eBay account. So there's ways to do this. I mean, I'm sure people do it. There's ways to do this. Josh was asking about it as a strategy. The point that I made is the only time I've ever even heard us talk about this is when we've said, hey, it's just kind of for fun, 99-cent opening bid in your PSA thing, just to get the ball rolling as a little tip off, put in a bid. I had a good conversation with Clark Kim from Cards to the Moon on last week's bonus pod about this. We kind of landed in a similar place where we were both kind of like, well, look, this happens. It probably shouldn't happen. There's not much we can do about it. curious to see what everyone else thinks. Kind of an interesting discussion. No judgment. Definitely not the easiest topic to talk about. Definitely not. We're not recommending it as a strategy, but because people in our community are asking about it as a strategy, I think it's time. And I've been kind of excited to get your take on this, which is why I had it. As our question of the month, because you weren't on that episode. So wanted to give you an opportunity to kind of mull it over and talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because when it's not at a consignment store, I'm like, whoa, that's crazy. Like if you're creating multiple accounts to bid on some stuff or whatever, like it is what it is. Like, but I think that's a little too far. If I am willing to go into an auction house, and this is fairly similar in the way I look at it, it's fairly similar to As the Wheels Turn, who's been in the live chat talking about this. 75% personally is too high for me, because I think it leaves no variance for like where the card's at in its current market. And I believe when we go to auction with cards, you don't know where its current market is. You're trying to figure out where its current market is. And so I think 75% is a little too high. But I will say, if I find a card that, let's say, say a Jaden Daniels or whatever is out there, and it's not a Topps Now card or whatever, and I want to send it to auction, and I'm expecting it, just for the sake of the argument, I'm expecting to sell for $1,000. I'm going to put an interest or an opening bid on that card at $250, because if it sells lower than that for whatever happens, maybe it's listed wrong or whatever, I want that card back. Like it's kind of like the buyer's minimum or the seller's minimum on an eBay auction. That I also feel kind of weird about, because people are just bidding, not know where there's a potential threshold at. And if they're like, cool, I won the card at $13, and then eBay's like, oh, the seller actually said, we're actually not going to sell this card unless it goes under $20, but they wanted you to get the appearance that you could have a good deal on this card. That feels honestly sketchier to me, and that's something we can all do on our eBay auctions. But I'm not saying like that you should go out there and shill your bids to 75%. I just like to get the opening bid started so that they are showing up as cards that have bids on them. Because but for instance, I have 100 cards actually right now that are currently on auction that are all Cooper Flag cards. And I have not gone through and bid $1 on all those cards. So I think, it's for us a unique scenario, I think. But I wouldn't necessarily say unethical, but I would say like the 75% threshold feels a little bit challenging for me. But As the Wheels Turns also said, why don't you just, now that we have the ability to do this, you did not have the ability to do this when we first started listing with PSA Vault. It started all auctions at 99 cents. But now we have the ability to set our entry start bid. And if you just set it at 70% of comps where you want the card to potentially end up at, then that feels good to me as well. But then also it takes a viewership out of it. Because like sometimes you have, you'll have 58 bidders, but all of them are between $1 and $25, and the card's at $100 now. Well, what if that person gets an alert that a card that they bid on is about to end at auction? They stopped bidding at $25, but then they realize, oh, it's only at $100 when it should be at $2. I'll bid $125.
Yeah. It's interesting. Like there's a butterfly effect from this, that the more we talk about this, the more I'm thinking about different scenarios. And one is like, what about cards that people are bidding on that are their own cards that get recorded as a sale but never get paid for? Yeah, and then other people are going, oh, this card sold for that, not knowing that it wasn't a legitimate sale. That could be just as big of a problem as maybe a bid from the seller that's misleading as interest in the card, when really it's just the seller hedging their own bet, right? So I think it really opens up a look into how do you mitigate your own risk. And I think I agree with you and As the Wheels Turn in terms of what you guys are saying about setting that opening bid at the amount that you're willing to set it at, from, so that you don't take a hit on it or an unnecessary hit on it. I think that is the safer strategy. What I had never heard before too is that what you said about there's a reserve price is what you're talking about. So like if you can go into eBay and set up an auction and you can set a reserve price, which I never recommend doing because it is the most misleading thing. I hate it. It is where there's an actual price set on the card that is a minimum price that the seller will take, but the buyers have no idea what that minimum price is. So you can be bidding on a card thinking that you're winning it, and you're not winning it because you're the highest bid, but you haven't met the reserve price. Now it'll tell you that you haven't met the reserve price, but that whole experience just sucks. I wish eBay would just do away with that. But so I do think that I see what you're saying. Like using your own bid is a way of like setting a reserve price. I think the difference is that does it actually help the algorithm if there's a bid on the card? That's another thing we don't know the answer to. We don't really know, as much as we Google things on eBay, we don't really know how the algorithm works. We think we know. We think we know that there are certain things that help the algorithm. Let me just say that. But we don't know if, one bid in a particular period of time allows it to then show up in search results better or more often or triggers more bids or anything like that. That's what we don't know. So exactly, right? So this is a fascinating topic to me. This is like the third time that we've talked about it. One was on the premium pod where I showed the video a minute ago. Second one was with Clark Kim last week. And then this one with you, Lefty, now. So, I mean, again, I think that's why I led with to each their own, right? But I do think that there are certain things that mislead people. But then you could argue, well, there are these other alternatives to it that also mislead people, right? Like, so I think it just comes back to be educated, stay educated, do all of your research, come to us for help, and, try not to mislead people, because there are, like, the other thing about this hobby that we've all learned, luckily through secondhand experiences, is that there is like a policing like no other in this hobby, where people will play detective. They'll find this stuff and they'll figure it out and they'll call people out on it. And so, I mean, I think better to just try and do what you feel is morally right while mitigating your own risk. And we can continue to help you with those things. So I love that we got the question, though. I think the fact that we got the question tells me that we're really covering some topics here at the Sports Card Strategy Show and no off season that other people just don't cover. Or when they do cover, it's just like, oh, this sucks and they should never do it and all that stuff. But I like that we're able to have some good talk about this. And we've got some people popping into the live chat. Our guy Chase Krim, I think, is in. So good to see him. Thanks everybody for contributing. Lefty, anything else you want to add for today's episode?
I am getting some offers back from Luka Doncic Silver Prism cards on. I lowballed some offers out there and they are biting. So
really,
I am probably going to come home with some sort of a Silver Prism Luka Doncic card at some point this week. So
let's go. I'm excited to hear.
And that all comes from Mr. Turner.
Mr. Turner, the Gauntlet. Good work, Turner. Schaus, we love you. Shout out to you. Shout out to Mosaic Joe. Everybody contributed to this episode. Jake the Guardian did a good job. Happy to be part of this community, everybody. Thanks for all of your support. Love you, Lefty. And we'll talk again soon, man. Thanks so much for being here with us on the Sports Card Strategy Show. If you enjoyed the content on today's show, there's plenty more waiting for you at nooffseason.com. Just go to nooffseason.com right now and get a free 30-day trial. You get our formula-based sports card rankings, sports card school, inventory tracker, the ability to grade with us, and the premium podcast where we answer an unlimited amount of your questions. Check it out right now at nooffseason.com. For everyone at nooffseason.com, I'm Paul Hickey. Thanks again for being here with us on the Sports Card Strategy Show. We'll see you again soon. Have a great day.